Hello, I'm Derek John Johnson. Today's video I want to talk a little bit about quiverfull and why I believe it is extremely fucking unhealthy at best for children and child abuse at fucking worst. While I did do research, I also do want to acknowledge that I'm not an expert in this movement, nor have I grown up in it, so if I get something wrong, please let me know. To start with what quiverfull is, for those not in the know, the quiverfull movement is essentially a movement based on a Bible verse that says something like, "And when the guard saw him at the gate with his family full of children, like a quiver full of arrows," hence the name quiverfull, "he was blessed and allowed to enter," for he was blessed, which, I mean, pretty obviously means, yeah, lots of children, good God give you lots of children. But essentially, the movement is very extreme conservative Christians who are anti-abortion and anti-birth control, who actively go out of their way to have as many children as humanly possible. They want families of, like, basically as big as 19 or 20 in some cases. They also believe heavily in biblical patriarchy, which means that only the dad goes to work and the mother is basically just a housewife. And that only the boy children in this family will be able to go and get jobs and get an education, all that other good jazz, while the girls will basically be prepared to be housewives for their entire life. They also reject government assistance, which means that their families do not actually receive any sort of help, believing that they have to do everything on their own or with the church. In fact, the most they'll do for help is maybe get a can of food or something from the church and for each of their kids, and this is just if the kids are lucky. They also are heavily into homeschooling and will usually cut off their children from the outside world. Oh, they're also anti-dating and will usually do something called a courtship process, which is, it's basically just arranged marriages rebranded. Kind of. The son will go to a father and ask if he can date his daughter, and then the father chooses whether the daughter and son will begin a courtship process, which will likely end up in them getting married. But here's the thing. These children in this house are treated very poorly often being neglected and being forced to parent their siblings because the parents are either too lazy or too busy to do their job as a family, as a parent. And children as young as 3 or 4 can be expected to be doing large amounts of housework because, well, the family doesn't have the resources usually to take care of the large amount of children they have. And since they refuse any sort of government help, not doing their best to actually take care of their goddamn children, everybody has to do their part to keep the household even close to running. And many of these children are not even allowed to, watch TV, or in some extreme cases, even dance. Which I shouldn't have to outright state, but that is really goddamn culty. Now, to be fair, in reading former quiverfull interviews, I have noticed that a lot of these children still do love and cherish their siblings. Probably because the siblings were the only ones actually taking care of each other while the parents were being selfish. But the thing is, even as somebody who grew up in a conservative Christian household that was actually a lot less strict than pretty much a lot of these quiverfull households, and who had parents who thankfully only had one sibling for me, growing up in that environment really screwed me up, so I can't even imagine how hard and traumatic it must have been for these kids having to basically raise their siblings, but also be cut off from contact with the outside world and be told all this really messed up garbage about how if you're a girl, you have no worth outside of what your daddy gives you, and you shouldn't even be allowed to choose even the most basic choices in your life. Here's the thing. This is extremely neglectful, as these parents are purposely having children they can't afford to take care of. Yes, sometimes you'll have people like the Duggars or the Bates or the Plaths, which actually do seem able to care for their family, but here's the thing, even then, the Duggars struggled for a long time and were only able, and were actually neglecting their family, as they were only able, the children had food problems and were only able to get food from the church and stuff because of their parents' extremist beliefs. Oh, also, the Duggars enabled a pedophile and straight up made it clear that they do not care about their daughter's safety at all. Here's the thing, they were only able to get that money because of TV shows or musical tours, and those are just a few lucky ones. Most quiverfull families are not that lucky from what I've seen. Sure, not all of these families are like starving and stuff, but a lot of them are. And if you have more children than you can take care of, cut them off from the outside world. Force them into your ideology, indoctrinate them. And only allow them to be with other people who share your beliefs. And do not take assistance or do everything you can to help those children. You are a waste of humanity and a fucking neglectful piece of shit who deserves to have your kids taken away from you and be forced to fucking vasectomy. The quiverfull movement is goddamn shameful from what I've seen. And I don't think that anybody should be purposely joining this movement. It is a goddamn cult-like abuse group that harms children in the long run. Lots of every day. Bye.